Hey to you too. You and me both, baby. I'm coming. All right, I'm coming. I'm trying to get this. I don't understand what's going on with the music. All right, let me see. Hold on. Oh. So yeah, this is just a little pop-up. I didn't announce this. I didn't tell none of my queens I was coming. I just decided to come on. I saw a couple things I wanted to share to close the gap between, the trial days, because today court was closed, as you probably know. So, oh, okay, I see what's going on. So yeah, people are going to wake up to this little treat. Good morning. It's still evening where I am, and it is still Thursday. So happy Friday, though, to everybody else. You know, I got to have my tunes. Let's see. All right, I don't know what the hell is going on. Okay. Other song wouldn't play. Here we go.
These niggas are typical, bitches is difficult. I'm the boss, who do I listen to? Depends who you talking to, them niggas not with you. I get a bag when I'm walking through, and piss niggas off with the flow I got lately. Closest one to me, the main ones who hating. Want me to fall, guess they just gon' keep waiting. Don't call me at all if you weren't in the basement. Song after song, man, I told you we make it. You smile the jewelry, I don't know what's fake. Don't waste no time on new time that we wasted. To spend time on women who always complaining. I got a new girl and that bitch, my little baby. As dope as the lions, this shit gon' go crazy cause we got it and these other niggas don't. Bitch, I'm all about my private island in my zone. Keep my phone on autopilot cause I don't know what you want. Nigga, why the fuck you lying? I'm the one who put you on. Look, and it's on me, spent no cheese. Running through the streets like 4 deep. I don't know you and you don't know me. Way too high to be low key. Red on red lenses, little niggas, I see through you. So many hoes, I don't need to choose. Blackout, I don't even see the booth. Reach at you niggas, I don't need a reason to. We the truth. Say my name 3 times like Beetlejuice. I'll pop up and pop at your people too. We on top and don't got a thing to prove. They hating, they don't got a thing to do. I'm in the rape and they can't see the roof. They on the roof, they can't see the view. If I hop in the booth and your team is through. Woo. Yeah, if I said it then I meant it too. I'm the one who started your career. Nigga, I can end it too. Been to jail for shit I didn't do. Closest ones who flip on you. One shoulder got a boulder on it. Other shoulder got a chip or two. I know niggas you could buy it from. I know niggas you could ship it to. Niggas wildin' on their Instagram. See me, they be in a different mood. Cause they know I'm from a city. Got an issue, then it's something we could get into. Niggas claiming what they ain't around me. On my family dog, you know that isn't true. And it's on me, spent no cheese. Running through the streets like
all right. Look, I'm gonna get into it. Now all of a sudden I'm getting tired.
God is dawn. Like and subscribe. Comment some night. Loving this light. Just God is dawn. God is dawn. God is dawn.
Peace, world, peace. Welcome or welcome back. I am Goddess Dawn, the warrior, back live on this Thursday, September 19, 2021. When you're watching this, it may be Friday. It may be Friday for you right now, but I'm in LA and it's Thursday. So I'm just popping in for a quick minute. Like I said, as you know, court was closed today for Yom Kippur. I hope I'm saying that correctly, a Jewish holiday. I'm not Jewish, so I don't celebrate it, but, happy Yom Kippur to all that do. So, yeah. Today was a much needed break. It was a much needed break for all of us. But, like I said, I'm only here for a minute. Lasting impressions by Kim. Thank you for being here, and the rest of y'all in the bushes looking through the windows. All good. So let's see. I'm just gonna get right into it. I want to just share a couple videos, maybe talk a little bit in between, depending or after, about what's coming up in this trial. So first, we'll start with, I guess, this BNC clip. Let me move this picture.
Good evening, I'm Rico, and this is Making the Case. This week marks the end of 1 month since the start of the R. Kelly sex trafficking trial in New York. But after dozens of witnesses, more than 10 of them alleged victims, plus letters, audio, and video recordings, the prosecution still hasn't wrapped its case in chief. Court was in recess today for the Jewish holiday Yom Kippur, but when court does resume tomorrow, it isn't clear whether the prosecution is any closer to resting its case. Veteran prosecutor and BNC's legal contributor Paul Henderson is, of course, here with analysis and his predictions. All right, Paul, the prosecution is still presenting in a trial that the judge said would be over in a month, yet here we are still getting more testimony and evidence. When it comes to those jurors, though, when does it become sort of overkill with this emotional testimony and the information too much to process?
Well, I mean, I think you have to balance that against all of the accusations and the victims that have come out of the woodwork to testify in a case like this. And so, as a prosecutor, you're always trying to balance whether or not you have a cumulative effect where jurors become insensitive to the information because they've heard that allegation already. And here we've got over a dozen victims testifying, and they each have almost an escalating story that increases the layers of behavior that they were involved with. And the prosecution has to really balance out whom they're going to put on the stand, what kind of narrative are they going to tell, and when that narrative becomes too repetitive, at what point does the jury stop paying attention and become either judgmental and questioning the credibility of one victim versus another, or they start getting used to this type of information and stop paying attention to it. Now, I think they planted some very key testimony throughout the witnesses that were on the stand. So at the very beginning, we heard about the STDs and herpes, and we all leaned forward and were paying attention. And then progressively, we learned about the grooming behavior, where he would meet people at the McDonald's or the recording studio, how he used his team around him to go and reach out to particularly young girls and women to get them introduced to R. Kelly and to fold into following what his rules were and the narrative and directions about how they all had to be around him and the rules they had to follow in his presence. And then they started ending with not just his abusive behavior, his recorded sexual contact with presumed minors, but also how those rules spread out amongst the people that he hired and he directed. So his personal assistants, his guards around him, how they literally enforced the rules that he had that allow him to engage in this illegal behavior. That's what prosecution has to re-remind, I think, this jury about towards the end, that all of this stuff that you're hearing is actually illegal behavior. Here's why and here's how, because that's what they need in order to get a guilty verdict.
All right, so you talked about the prosecution planting key testimony early on. If you had to pick a defining moment or two from the prosecution's case where you said, okay, they just proved their case, they can pretty much pack it up and go home, what would that be? Or have they yet to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt?
I think they've proven it to me, but I'm a lawyer, I'm a prosecutor, I know what they're doing. I think they still need to connect those dots. I think they need to explain to the jury that regardless of what you feel about these victims, regardless of what you've heard from these witnesses, let us define for you what the elements are for accountability that translates into guilt. And in that way, they need to remind people that you don't have to like these people. You don't have to agree with their behavior. You can be judgmental about their promiscuity or about their fan behavior. But if you believe more than one of them was underage when they were engaged in sexual conduct with R. Kelly, that defines the guilt and that defines the verdict of guilty. And so that's what I'm still waiting for from prosecution. And to be honest with you, and you're a prosecutor, I think you might have been looking for this as well. I'm looking and waiting for some expert to come on. I want to hear from a psychologist to talk about why he was doing this kind of thing, because I think this is one of the natural things, at least, I've been in front of plenty of juries, and this is what they want to know is why. Why does someone do things like this? Why does someone behave like this? Why does someone act like this? And I think they have to overcome the hurdle that I think the defense will likely use, is that he's a celebrity, and that gives him permission to act inappropriately or act badly. And they have to overcome that to show that beyond his celebrity, that he is a defendant, that he was a criminal, and this was the illegal behavior that he engaged in, because that's what they need the jury to believe at the conclusion of this trial. I've seen enough. I've seen and heard the evidence to believe that it's valid, listening to the witnesses and seeing the evidence, but I still expect a little bit more for a lay audience and for this jury.
All right, Paul, let's now turn to the defense. The testimony from the prosecution.
Hey, Miss Della. TTS, I see you. I'm good.
All
great,
corroborating
actually.
one another. So, as usual, the defense clearly has an uphill battle. They don't have to obviously prove a thing, right? Because the prosecution, of course, has the burden of proving a crime was committed, but they've got to do something to take that sting out of those damning accounts given by the prosecution's witnesses. So how do they do that?
I think they do it in two ways. I think they do it by laying a foundation of victim blaming. I think they do it by turning a judgmental eye on promiscuity and these men and women that were engaging in sexual behavior and trying to put it under the umbrella of fan behavior. That they're going to talk about them being willing participants, that they received money and trips and jobs, and that they didn't report or tell people when they could have. And we should be judgmental about that. I think that's the approach that they're likely to take. The secondary approach that I think that they're going to run with is R. Kelly as a huge celebrity, as a musical genius, that we should accept behavior like this because this is what celebrities do, that they rant, they're illogical, they're sometimes mean, and that they should not be held accountable in a criminal court of law, which is what we're in right now for this trial. But I think that the real difficulty is in trying to obscure all of the behavior, all of the testimony, and all of the evidence against any criminal behavior. And remember, prosecution has to prove at least 2 instances of criminal behavior in order to get the Rico files affirmed. And so that's what I think we're going to hear from the defense. And I don't see any other approach that they could take in a case like this. I would be very surprised if Kelly gets on the stand. I don't think they can put him on the stand because I think the jurors might not like him after listening to what they've heard over the past few weeks.
Well, you know what? We talked about that before, whether R. Kelly would be taking the stand or not. Of course, we would advise against it. But do you think, quickly, Paul, do you think R. Kelly wants to take the stand?
I think he does. I mean, we've heard from him. We're like, remember that Gayle King interview? Woo! Now, that was something, Robert. I think he wants to tell his story because he thinks people will listen to him. And let's not forget that he's beaten a case before in the criminal court. I think he feels like if he could tell his story and share his energy and his personality, that people see him as a celebrity, that will help him. And I think not in this case, not right now, and not at this time. I think the tides have changed. I think the evidence is different. And I would not allow him to go on the stand where I am part of that defense team, which I'm not, nor would I would be.
All right, veteran prosecutor and legal contributor Paul Henderson, thank you so much. Coming up, testimony continues on Capitol Hill as some of the country's top gymnasts testify on how the FBI mishandled abuse allegations brought against disgraced team doctor Larry Nassar. Latest developments just moments away.
That's something else we should be also talking about a little more, I think. So, no one asked to be abused when dating a celebrity. Exactly. Yes, Miss Stella. Bring it early in the morning. So, what I got from that was, the attorney, the prosecutor, and I didn't know she was a prosecutor too, the host, that's pretty dope. But yeah, so he was pointing out that the jurors' perception could be skewed by different factors, could be overkill of information, or could even be numbness to the testimony, being that there's so much of the repetitive abuse claims very similar to each other, even though they're different, years and places and everything. So, he brought that up, which is valid. We don't know who the jurors, what's going on in their minds. To be very honest, to become a juror, it's not necessarily rocket science. The things that they ask you is more so to benefit the case, with regard to just the juror's knowledge. What do you know about this? How do you feel about this and that? I think you'll be all right. Like, it's not a lot of vetting that goes on. So with that said, we don't know what's going on in these people's minds, to be very honest. Now I'm gonna say this. Now, when they're deliberating, if there seems to be a problem with somebody or more than one somebody, I'm sure it's going to come up to the judge. It's not going to just fly that some cuckoo bird groupie might be on the jury, or that maybe on the other hand, I don't know, somebody has a, what I want to say? Maybe some type of vengeance because of personal reasons and not money, which I can't see. But what I'm saying is, I'm not too concerned about that, honestly. I mean, I did think about it quite a bit early on, but not so much now. The prosecution needs to make sure that the jurors have a clear understanding of the charges and how to weigh the evidence, which is what the prosecution did provide them with: the jury charges, with all of the charges very specifically, with also instructions on how to, weigh emotion versus evidence and whatnot. Like, they specifically do say, how to really make your decision. They kind of say, look, this is what this is. You know what I'm saying? So, and we're through that. I have all the jury charges and the instructions from, the court database. And when they do deliberate, if there's enough time, we're going to go through those things as if we are the jury. So, and I say if there's time because kind of thinking they might not need a lot of time to deliberate. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't take them any time to deliberate. Like, just go out to deliberate, have lunch, and maybe come right back in with their guilty verdicts. How about that? So, and again, like he said, everyone on the jury, everyone who's testifying, as well as Sylvester, aren't going to be likable. Everyone's not going to be likable. So, but just because they're not likable doesn't mean they weren't abused or violated. So that's going to have to be made clear. And, he said the defense is probably going to use his celebrity as their rebuttal. And, if they did want him to testify, it would only be to, quote unquote, charm them, which, like he said, the attorney, that they're not trying to hear him right about now. That jury probably has a lot of distaste for him after hearing and seeing everything they have up to this point.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So with that being said, thank you. So with that being said, yeah, he said they're going to use his celebrity. They're going to victim blame. They're going to, cast judgment, shaming, say they were willing to participate, accepted gifts and trips and money and, the parents, it's going to be a whole shit show piled onto, these victim witnesses and their parents and everything else that they can possibly throw shit on. They're going to do it. That's their job. So I didn't expect much less. They're actually hanging in there pretty good for not having much to work with, meaning the defense. So what's up, Queen? I'm just here for a minute. I kind of just popped in here talking about this trial, what's happening tomorrow. The prosecution is supposed to rest, but there's still question. Even in this news clip, they said the prosecution could rest and that, it said they're going to rest and the defense will start on their presentation on Monday. So I'm very curious about that too. But, what do you guys think about what he was saying? I don't know if you guys even heard what he was saying, but I tried to listen. That was actually my second time listening. So, if you have to go back in the replay and just let me know in the comments, because I'm going to bring it up again tomorrow. So I'm going to play the other news clip that I have and then get up on out of here. But let me bring it up on the screen. I still can't find that Barry Hankerson interview with Dr. Oz. So if anybody knows where I can find that, or because it's like nowhere. I mean, some people were able to view it apparently in certain states, I think more so on the East Coast. But I haven't been able to find it. And there's a couple of bloggers who did videos based on the full interview. And they said that Barry Hankerson, the little clip that we saw, which I can play again, but the little clip that we saw had him telling us that his sister Diane, Aaliyah's mom, was pretty much responsible. He threw her under the bus, for what happened, for the R. Kelly situation and everything else. But when you get down to the real full interview, apparently he said a lot more than that. He literally said R. Kelly and Aaliyah's mother were working together, conspiring together, with regard to that last video shoot, making sure that Hype Williams was there to do whatever it was he did. I think he ended up taking her plane, which was why she ended up getting on the plane that she did. Hey, Angela. Esau, did I ever invite Jaguar right on? No, I had not invited Jaguar on. I would have loved to have her on, or would love to. I have no idea what's even going on with her right now. But anyway, so Angela, wait, you saw the full interview? Yeah, I want to know if you saw the full interview, because you said you saw it, because I'm so curious about that. And where can I find that interview? So yeah, he said a lot of stuff. Actually, Beautiful Spirit called me. She sent me links to this blogger's. I guess it was a two-parter, but the second link, I guess, was so explosive. She called me about it, like, you got to listen to this, sis. So definitely going to talk about that tomorrow, or try to play some of that audio. But like I said, if you guys find that link, please email it to me. My email is in the description of this video in the about section. Oh, not the full interview. Okay. So you just like us in the dark. I'm trying to get that interview. I'm wondering if the feds got wind of it and put their foot on it, or either there were some threats or something happened, because it was weird. We get this clip, a teaser. Some people see the full interview, but not everyone. So they didn't end up rolling it out for whatever reason. And I want to know why. So let me get into this one from Court TV. We've got to love Vinny, right? Okay.
We don't have any cameras in the courtroom, but we do have sketches of R. Kelly inside that courtroom. There he is, wearing a mask. He's got glasses on. I wonder, are those reading glasses? I don't know if he can read or not. Huh.
Exactly.
What is he looking at in that picture? I can't tell. All right. Well, let's bring in Court TV legal court. Julie Janae joining us live from Brooklyn tonight. So everyone had the day off today, but prosecutors getting close to wrapping up their case. How are they doing that?
That's what we've been hearing, that they are expected to rest their case this week. They ended their case on Wednesday, yesterday, with the case agent, so leaving these jurors with the investigative look at this case. And we don't know who they are going to call tomorrow, but it may be the last thing that jurors have going into the weekend before the defense starts this case. And we know these jurors have had a lot more to look at and listen to than they've had previously in this case. There's a look at one of the exhibits that was shown this week. That is the surveillance that was being done by Homeland Security of this Grammy Award-winning singer. He's in that picture along with his brother, George Kelly, and they were watching him. This is at a Residence Inn, a hotel in the northern part of Chicago. They also heard...
I wasn't sharing the screen. I know y'all probably heard that, so I'm just going to share it from here. My bad.
Heard and watched some visual recordings and audio recordings that were by the prosecution, something the prosecution really wanted them to see, because they said it actually showed a verbal physical assault of the defendant with young women. We did not get to see that as far as the media and the public, but we have an idea of what it contained because of how the prosecution described it in their motions. And here's what they said the jury needed to see from it and what they believe is the takeaway. Take a look. The government's exhibit 484, that's one of those recordings, should be admitted to show one of the techniques that the defendant used to control females. Specifically, his installation of a camera overhead allowed him to track the activities of females in that room and then accuse one of lying to him. And also at trial, there are witnesses who have testified that they believe the defendant recorded their activities even when they were not present. Finally, the fact that the defendant made and then kept these recordings in a storage facility for a period of years is probative in the lengths of which the defendant would go to maintain control over the females in his life. Again, that relates to the recordings that the case agent was able to find after a search warrant on the properties of Kelly.
All right. This is some fascinating information and evidence. Let me bring back in the tank. Molly Palmer, how concerned should the defense be here? Now, we know what happened the first time he was at trial, and there were videos of the actual crime. He was found not guilty. The allegations here are similar, but I think a little bit larger. Running a criminal enterprise, being the person in charge of all this, controlling these women and abusing them.
Right. I think what we have to remember is that this is federal court, and federal court is very different than state court. And specifically the way they've charged this case, if you look at the second superseding indictment, they've charged this as, exactly as you said, criminal enterprise, racketeering, 18 USC 1961. And so the government doesn't just prove that he abused these girls, that he had sex with these girls, that they were underage. They have to prove that he was the leader of this enterprise, and that through this enterprise, he was doing these other criminal acts as though he was like the mafia. It's actually very difficult to prove. So I think the defense at this point does have the option of arguing to the jury that the prosecution has not proven their case under the Racketeering Act, 18 USC 1961.
Renee, they're not going to like this guy.
Well, the jury, there are a lot of allegations here that they certainly would not like, but they are.
They also saw some videos and some recordings as well.
Let her know.
Yeah, they're certainly not going to like it, and we have a lot of clients that are not liked. It doesn't mean that their guilt is proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's what the jury has to look at. They have to separate that. We're not always going to like the person that is on trial.
You know, Carmen, Robert Kelly and Robert Durst have more than just a first name in common. They were both successful at their first trials, and they're both of their second trials kind of wrapping up at the same time. I just think that R. Kelly is going to have a more difficult time than Robert Durst. I think they're both going to get convicted, but I think he's going down quicker.
Vinny, I totally agree, and it's because of what Molly said. I mean, look, these are the feds, and so they're going to take him down. And if you don't hate him, I would question what's going on with you, because everything we've heard in this trial is just, it's obnoxious on a level. It's clear that he's a sexual deviant. It's clear that he's been conspicuous about the abuse that he's done to these women and younger boys for years. The only question I have is how and why could this be going on for so long, and we're just now getting a hold of this gentleman. So, I think he's going down, and I think his deliberation period will be much shorter than Robert Durst.
All right, Julie Janae, what's coming up tomorrow in Brooklyn?
Tomorrow, the government continues with their witnesses. They've called 43 so far, so they may have a handful that they are going to rest. And then this case will pass to the defense. We don't know how long their case will be, but according to the estimation that this jury on how long this trial would go, we could be in a verdict watch as early as the end of next week.
Yes.
All right, Julie Janae in Brooklyn, thanks so much.
Verdict watch.
Now.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to show this real quick because I thought this was on the screen at the time. If you guys could see this, let me switch over. Look how Tricky Nicky's looking at old Robert. Robert is looking at a paper, it looks like, trying to read. She looking dead at him. Like, I seriously can't get over these groupie people who work for him, these attorneys, these reporters, because you know that the lady up at the top right, the sister, was a fan. You could tell. And old girl at the bottom left checked her. Said, if you like this, if you don't hate him, I don't know what, something wrong with you. But yeah, this one up here, she was trying to say, you might not like him, but that don't mean he's guilty. And I guess you can't really argue with that, but you kind of can when you know it's R. Kelly. So those were the things I wanted to share. Why Kevin, let me see, Esau. If R. Kelly is being convicted, then Kevin Gates and others should be charged as well. When you're connected to the Boule and these secret organizations, they'll let you get away with dirt. Think about it. Well, how do you think R. Kelly was getting away with stuff? He was part of all that stuff too. He messed up. He did something wrong. They don't like when you break their rules and act indignant. And I think, beyond the actual legal, third, I would say, 3D realm stuff, the physical right here in front of you, there were some things going on under the belly of this thing. Okay. There's an underbelly that is not even being touched in this courtroom. There's an underbelly that is dark, that is scary, that is deathly. And I don't know if we'll ever see that in our lifetimes here in the forefront, because these organizations do run deep. They're what created all of this thing we're in. Them now trying to mandate these vaccinations. You know what I'm saying? They just announced LA County. They're proposing this. It could go into effect as early as November. Passports to go everywhere, grocery store, banks, of course, theaters and event venues of concerts and whatnot. But some of these things, a lot of these things they're mandating don't allow exceptions, such as religion or health. So with that being said, Issa, I totally believe all that. Like, it's me living, I live in, like, seems like two different worlds. I have one foot on this earth and the other foot in the, cosmos, because there's a lot more to what you see and feel right in front of you, what's going on day to day here. Spiritual warfare, people, remember, talk about this all the time. All of it, Esau. So yeah, and that's a conversation to be had also. But YouTube has become super strict about everything. Like, they censor like a mug on here. And I've only been on here a little over 2 years, but not a little over, but more. Going on 3 years at this point. But and when it seems like soon as I got on here, they started tightening the reins. And I think because ownership changes and people changing helms at the top. So, and I think all of those things have to do with YouTube also, and watching, they're watching everything. So what do y'all think about what Vinny and his crew had to say? Personally, I feel confident about conviction. She said they have 43 witnesses so far, and they may have a handful more. I mean, there was word that there were 50 plus witnesses. So, and, being that one or two didn't come in person, even though they still count, of course. But the one girl, the Jane Doe 20, her testimony was the audio visual as opposed to her own personal testimony. So I guess there would have been 44 had she testified. But yeah, I do feel strong about conviction. I do agree that a good psychologist, or even especially one who's a cult expert, would be, great for the prosecution. It would do the prosecution real good. It would, I think that would be the hammer that would, nail that final proverbial nail in the coffin just right. Of course, we, the Warrior Queens, and I will be back tomorrow evening for a live recap after trial. And check my community page and other social medias, which are in the description box, my IG, my Twitter. I'm active on both. And you can go there for updates. My story on IG more so than my actual page, but yeah. Yeah, like, subscribe, comment if you're in the replay, and share this video. Donate to the Warrior Fund if you're inspired to do so. And join this channel. I went ahead and pinned the join link for VIP access to certain videos and lives off limits to the public. Yep, I'm going to be continuing reading the Aaliyah, Baby Girl Better Known as Aaliyah book tomorrow. We are in, I believe, chapter 10. and it's a good read. It's a real good read. So if you join, you can just listen to all the videos up to this point and catch up. But with all of that said, I thank you as always. Much love and peace.